Right. We're joining. We're live. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to join in. I'm going to go grab some things to enjoy the views. Share this live with your friends. And let's get into the topic for today. What we're talking about today is VAWA-based green cards and why people get denied. So sit tight. See you soon. Hey, yeah. Never. Never see. All right. Seeing some people joining us live here we're gonna pause our entertainment. Hope you guys like that song. That's one of my favorites right now. Thank you for joining from Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Wow, a lot of you here today. We're definitely gonna get into those questions today because last live we're getting a bunch of questions where we still had to end, but today we'll try to get to the questions quicker. I'll just get through the topic for this week. We've been getting questions about the VAWA-based green card and why it will get denied. Some people, I help clients file their marriage-based green card and also if they've been abused by their U.S. citizen spouse. So I get that question quite a bit, so we're going to discuss it today. Okay? For those of you who do not know me, if this is your first time just seeing me live or just seeing me, period. My name is 𝐕𝐀𝐖𝐀, the marriage green card lawyer. I help couples currently in the USA or outside the USA who want to live permanently in the US with their spouse. So I help them file their permanent residency green card so they can start enjoying freedom in the US. So if you are married to a US citizen and you're in that process right now, I can definitely share with you some tips, tricks, different resources. So you can scan the QR code to reach out to me. There's going to be information and resources for you. So yeah, and also join us every Friday for live Q&A so we can definitely talk to you directly. And as usual, if you want to come on video with us, just let us know, indicate, send us a message, and then we can join you to our lives. Okay? All right. So why would your VAWA-based green card get denied? Right? That's a great question. Why would anything you apply for get denied? You really need to know that because, you are depending on, getting your green card, which is your permanent residency, through this process. So if it's going to get denied, that means you're not going to have your green card and your residency. So obviously, you need to know. You need to know that. Kim, we normally start at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So you're not late. We just kind of started talking about the topic. So join in. Make sure you share with your friends as well to join. Yeah. So basically, we're talking about the VAWA-based green card and why it typically gets denied, and why it's also important, why people want to know, because it makes sense to know if you are filing to get your permanent residency. You want to know what to avoid so it doesn't get denied, right? Because not only is it an expensive process, it does take quite a while to wait, especially for VAWA, to wait to get your final approval. So while you're waiting, you need to know what your options are. At that point, is my application good? Like, was I able to provide, the required documents and things of that nature? So that's why we need to know this. So if you're currently considering a VAWA-based green card, or you filed one already and you're waiting, this is very important information. Or share it with someone who is going through that process as well, for them to benefit from the answers and the solutions here. Okay. But before I get into that, some of you watching me right now probably don't know what VAWA is. A lot of people still ask me, or they're like, "Oh, this is my very first time hearing about VAWA. Like, what is that?" So before I get into why your green card will get denied, I'm going to tell you a little bit about VAWA, what it is, and who typically qualifies for a VAWA self-petition. Okay. So a VAWA self-petition is simply a process that is available for immigrants, non-citizens, right, living in the USA, who have been emotionally abused by their US citizen spouse, physically abused, financially abused, verbally abused by their US citizen spouse. Okay, so to be all those categories, it could be either or, right? As long as you are living with your U.S. citizen spouse, you have the intention to build a life, but all of a sudden, you found out that your U.S. citizen spouse is controlling, manipulative. Maybe you came on a K-1 visa. You didn't really know them that long. 90 days, you got married, and then you realize, like, what the heck? Who's this person? Right? They're like, don't go out. Don't do this. Don't buy this. Don't do that. You just feel trapped because now you have a green card pending. So that's where a VAWA self-petition comes in. That's what it's for. Okay. It is just to help any non-citizen in that situation to still be able to get their green card, so long as they can prove certain things, right? It's not just automatic, right? Some people think, and I've heard people make comments about that on my TikTok videos. Maybe people will they think it's just something it's easy to get because you just cry wolf and say, "Oh, my spouse is abusive," and then they just get their green card. That's not how it works at all. Okay, it's a much more detailed process. It's much more than just proving extreme cruelty. There are other things you have to show in your package in order to be in a better position for an approval, right? So at the end of the day, there are different other things to consider, like admissibility. Let's say you overstayed, you're probably going to need to file some type of waiver of inadmissibility. So even if you get denied at first, you may qualify for that. But aside from that, many of the clients that I help have overstayed their visa, but still they're still able to get approved and get their green card. So aside from that, those ones are fixable. There are certain other criteria that if you don't have that in your application, even though you've been abused, right? That you've been abused, but if you're not able to show certain things in your application, you don't stand a chance of getting that approved, right? So in short, your VAWA petition replaces the need for an I-130 petition, a family petition, because your family member, which is your spouse, or it could be your parents or other family members too, who was supposed to help you with your green card, is abusive, and now you don't know what to do. Like, what are my options, right? So that's where it comes in. Okay. So, but anyway, the main reason, the very first reason why, and this is, the one time somebody has called me, I think he filed a DIY, which a lot of people file their immigration process DIY, and that's fine because you can find almost every information on the USCIS website. But when it comes to something as complicated as a VAWA self-petition, I believe that seeking a professional is definitely your best bet, because this individual was definitely abused. So I was empathetic. I felt so sad, but he called me after years of waiting. He finally got a denial, and he's like, I don't understand because I was abused. And then I looked into the package, and so that's how I was able to realize, okay, so this is why he got denied. It's not, there's no denying that he got abused, right? So, because there's evidence of that. But there's one particular thing, the very first reason why anyone's VAWA-based green card will get denied is because, number one, they were not able to prove a bona fide marriage. Okay? They were not able to prove that the marriage that they're claiming is abusive right now started off with the intent to build a life. So, that sounds like, how am I going to do this? Because sometimes, right, with abuse and control, you don't have access to the accounts, bank accounts, or you just don't have access to a lot of things, and you're not really able to prove bona fide marriage. But then, you're like, so what do I do at that point? So even still in that situation, the abuse caused you to have insufficient documents, right? There's still things that you can show, a timeline, for example, like how you met this person, how you got into a situation whereby you now all of a sudden married this person. Were there any red flags? Like, what was the beginning, the foundation? You can attest to that. You can have people who, maybe if someone introduced you, there's a way, how did you meet? There's always something there. So people are always caught up in the fact that, okay, we didn't have a joint account together, or we had a joint account, but my spouse didn't let me, spend from the account or whatever. So there's no proof of like usage, or we didn't really live together because I lived with my parents and we're in school, so we don't have a lease, So they get caught up on those types of documents, which those types of documents are very, necessary and important as well. But if you don't have them because of abuse, like I said, your spouse is controlling, there are other ways to show that from the beginning I had the intent to build a life with this person, but for this abuse, right? So there are other details that one can, just look into. You have to really just dig deep into your story. And that's what I help my clients with. I help them think about, I ask them questions that make them think about certain aspects of their relationship they probably never really thought was important, so that we can create a timeline to show the USCIS that, this marriage started with the intent to build a life. These are the things we did. This is, XYZ. Support those with some affidavits, by other people who were the witnesses, maybe your friends, your mutual friends, and then we're able to then build a case on that. Because without this very important factor, number one, that's why I made it number one, you may have been abused, which I've seen happen, but you could potentially still get denied because, it's like, you may as well just be meeting someone on the street, you marry them, and after like 2 months, you're like, oh, so-and-so is, telling me I'm going to get deported, because, making threats of deportation is equivalent to emotional abuse. And, and then you're like, okay, after like 2 months, you're like, what, F this, I'm filing a VAWA petition. Obviously, them telling you they're going to deport you is part of the emotional abuse, but there needs to be more, right? You need to have more to that whole relationship, not just a 2-month thing, and then, this is happening. So it's like, there just needs to be more. It's not going to be as easy as some people think it is, right? So it is very important that you can show this in your package so that you have a higher chance of being approved, okay? Then the second thing, or the second reason why some VAWA-based green cards will get denied is because you filed late, or you filed after the deadline of divorcing your abusive spouse. Because sometimes, right, people, if you're in an abusive relationship, you end up just getting fed up and then you leave, and then you watch one of my lives and you're like, oh my gosh, I could have qualified for VAWA. My spouse was doing XYZ, and then you contact us to file. When we look at a case, sometimes some people have past that timeline. They may not know this, so they applied on their own or whatever, and then that could just lead to automatic denial, because if you wait for over 2 years to file after you've left the abusive spouse, you most likely won't get approved. So you have to qualify for a green card in a different way. Even though, like I said, it is sad when I see situations whereby someone has actually gone through a whole lot in a person and they just didn't know. I've even seen a situation whereby the lady actually just left the country. She was like, I don't care about a green card, which to me, I was like, kudos to you, because a lot of people, will continue to stay in that situation and not leave. And maybe because they don't have any choice. Every situation is different, but in her case, she had a choice. So she had family and stuff like that, so she just left. But then when she learned about VAWA, she was like, man, if I had known, I could have qualified, I could have stayed and filed, but she didn't know, and that time, the time had passed. So that's a very big reason why some people will just automatically get disqualified, basically, because, once you're disqualified, you just get denied because there's really nothing for them to evaluate here. So they're not going to consider the fact that you were in a bona fide marriage and you were abused and all that stuff. They'll just be like, I'm sorry, find another way. So that's another reason. So the final reason I'm going to share today, these are not the only reasons, by the way. So just follow me on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere, so that you can continually hear more tips about filing your VAWA-based green card, because it's not just only these reasons I share. I'll keep just sharing more as we go along. But the final reason I have here for today is you're not able to show the extreme cruelty that is required to claim abuse, right? So the true meaning of VAWA is Violence Against Women's Act. Even though it says women's, it's like for men and women. So, but it was initially, I think, started with women in mind. But so violence against women, they want to prevent you from experiencing violence or extreme cruelty just because you're a non-citizen and in a disadvantaged position in a sense. So they end up basically requiring, okay, so fine, if you're claiming to have been abused, right, how can you prove that? How can you tell us that? There are several ways to prove abuse, extreme cruelty. The very first one is going to be your statement, your affidavit of the abuse, because you experienced it, right? Nobody was there with you. All the text messages, you were the one reading it, all the everything, the yelling, it was you. So you're going to have to say your own first, okay? Say your own what happened, and then you're gonna get other supporting evidence like a police report, which is not required, but it helps. Psychological evaluation from a psychologist, a therapist, just someone who can attest to some of the emotional traumas that you're now experiencing because of the extreme cruelty that you experienced. So those types of documents, together can show that, yes, continuously this person was always threatening me with divorce and deportation and, taking away, because I've heard different scenarios, right? Maybe taking the car, just leaving you at home without the car. That's a form of control, because it's like, first of all, I can't drive because I don't have my green card or anything. So there's no food. There's nothing, no money in the joint account or whatever, and you just kind of left. All those type of subtle things, and if you say those in your statement, by this time you've already developed some sort of depression or anxiety or something, PTSD from all the gaslighting, right? So you need to go to a professional to tell you that, even though we can see the evidence, but you can't really just diagnose yourself. You have to go get some type of evaluation to prove that. So some people may just write their statement and not have any other support for that statement. So in that whole process, they're not able to prove that the extreme cruelty just with their own words, right? It's not enough. It is the first thing, but you just need to back it up, right? So that's essentially how you're going to prove extreme cruelty. You can get statements from other people, because I've had scenarios whereby maybe you get kicked out of the house and one of your friends has to pick you up, or you have to stay in a hotel or a shelter or whatever the case may be. I've had all those scenarios I just mentioned. So if that happened to you, you'll be getting evidence of that. Your shelter or your friend can write a statement like, well, do you remember when you came to pick me up at 10 p.m. on the side of the street? So those types of things, progressive timelines. It's like, it's not just enough to just say, oh, one day they threatened me for deportation, and we had a fight, and that's just say that, and then they're like, okay, that's not enough, right? And like I said, some people have gone through different types of abuse that they probably didn't even realize was abusive, so they don't even mention those ones. You just think, oh, it's just normal arguments or whatever, and you just brush that aside, and that's how you're not able to submit that. So thankfully with denial, they always help clients with as well, responding to USCIS letters or decisions or requests for evidence, anything like that. So if you end up being in a situation where you filed VAWA, you were truly abused, but you got denied because of one of the reasons I mentioned, you can go ahead and book a call with me. Click on the link, will scan the QR code, or click on in the description if you're watching on YouTube or wherever. On TikTok, guys, you can just check the link in my bio for information. Okay, so if you're facing that type of scenario, just reach out and then we can talk about it. But otherwise, if you've already applied and it's taking a while, just know that it can take up to like 2.5 years to get your final approval. Okay, my clients have been getting their prima facie decisions over and over again, because after like a year, you get your prima facie. Your prima facie is essentially like your first approval when they look at your package and they see that, okay, you have everything that's required. You have your criminal records, you have proof of your relationship with your spouse, you have everything that's needed, then they'll be able to give you your prima facie decision so that you can just use that if you need to get benefits like Medicaid or something like that. Because some of my clients also have children, and there's so many situations where they need some type of government help, and having a prima facie decision helps with that. So if your spouse kicked you out and it's a financial or economic type of abusive situation, you can basically get some help from the government with that. So, but for sure, if you're watching this live right now, just reach out with your questions. I just wanted to run through the whole thing I had for you guys today, so we can spend the other half of this live going over your questions. I see a bunch of questions already coming in, so I didn't ignore you. I just wanted to get through the topic because I think it's very important. And Kim, Rosie, you're welcome. Always join us, because this is it. I'm here to share insights and really help people really understand their options. It's not a gimmick or anything. I have passion for this. I'm an immigrant myself, so it's not something that we need to play about. We really need to know our power so you can get your freedom back. Like you don't really need to go through any situation that is not serving you anymore, like, for whatever reason. Okay. I had a conversation with one of my clients the other day. I was like, listen, I'm even to the point of saying, even though I want my clients to find their freedom in the USA and get their permanent residency green card, but if there's a situation whereby you end up being deported or whatever to your country or wherever, and there's no wars or crimes or anything like against you for you to qualify for asylum or anything like that, just live your purpose. The whole point of all of this, the reason why we tell you these things and give you these tips to free yourself, is so that you can be free to follow your dreams and do your purpose, like to find out why you are here. Otherwise it's pointless, right? You can't just be scrambling for a green card like for no reason. So that's why we're doing this. Okay. So I'm excited to get into the questions. I'm going to start from the very first one I saw. So just be patient. If you don't hear, your question, just be patient. And also you can watch on YouTube later if you missed the live. So Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Ice, thank you for being here, and I appreciate everyone. So let's do this. Questions. We said hello. Okay. All right, I'm going to let you go through the questions with me so that we can know the first one. Great. Okay, question from someone on TikTok, Muncie Boo. Okay, Muncie Boo too. How soon after you get married can you adjust your status? Great question, Monty. For those of you just joining, you know that I help clients file their permanent residency green card through marriage. So adjusting your status is essentially getting your green card, your permanent residency. So right after marriage, there's really no wait time. You just go ahead as long as you have proof of bona fide marriage and you have proof of your legal certificates or something that shows that you're good. Okay, so there's no time at all. As soon as you're married, you file. I get calls a lot from people who they're like, "Oh, I'm getting married on Saturday. I just wanted to ask a few questions before I get married." That happens a lot. So once, to me, I'm like, if you're dating for quite a while, maybe 10 years or something, which I've seen. Some people have children together. You already have proof of that bona fide relationship. So once you have the legal certificate, because even though your fiance, you can only file the fiance visa to come and get married. At the end of the day, it's all about getting married and then filing your green card. Okay. So once you have that, you're good. Okay. All right. Thanks for your question. Next question. I think that was also just from Monty. Let's see here. Not having a police report. Okay. From Stark, Tony Stark. Not having a police report or medical evidence, will that disapprove your petition? So Stark, it's a no generally, but because it's not required, right? But it will help the application. It's not required, so it's not necessarily going to mean that you get denied automatically because you don't have a police report. But if you don't have a police report, because for emotional abuse, a lot of people don't call the police. Like, I mean, if your spouse is just doing, let's just say they're doing silent treatments or something like that, and not giving you food, money, or just isolating you in a way you can't talk to your family members and all that stuff, you probably won't think about calling the police. You just sit down there and just be mad, So you probably didn't call the police for that one. That's why having a police report is not required. However, if you were depressed, obviously, because you weren't eating, you felt just so useless, like you're being a burden to somebody because they're always telling you, oh, all you want is this green card, blah, blah, blah. I'll file it, okay? I'll file it. Chill. 14 years goes by, please. For that one, I would recommend just seeing a therapist because it's mental torture. Okay, you need to be able to have someone to just support what you're saying. It's not saying that you're going to get denied or anything, but it'll help. Okay? All right, what's next? I hope that answers your question. And if you have more, my information is everywhere. Just feel free to reach out. Okay? So someone on TikTok, Brad Kobe, I'm not certain why you have not received your interview. I'll just assume it is related to the general backlogs that we're seeing all over immigration world, right? Because there's thousands of people, there's thousands of applications, and then there's just a few USCIS officials. Government officials, like God bless them because they do like a lot in terms of they pick up our calls, and always calling USCIS and process our paperwork and do different things. But I think we just need to have more people on deck. I mean, let me know what you think in the comments because it's just everything is always understaffed and there's always like so much. I'm like, why? Meanwhile, a lot of people are unemployed. Like, what's the tea? What's the truth? Because I've been going to the DMV lately, which is also a government thing, and there's just always a line, always a backlog, always a delay. I'm like, what's going on? Why is there? Because short staffed, right? Why are we short staffed? This is America. Let's do something about that. So if there's any delays with your in-card stuff, your lottery, your getting your paperwork, If you're in the USA, you're my client. You know I've already told you. Just be thankful if you have your work authorization and your travel permit. Just live your life, okay? Enjoy your spouse, build your relationship, right? Because you're going to get approved eventually. It's just going to take some time because it's just backlogs, okay? We'll call and we'll check and we'll make sure that they're not losing your case or forgetting your case because that happens, right? But in your heart, just don't worry. Okay, just don't worry about checking the timeline every time. I see my Facebook group all the time. Someone made a joke saying, maybe there's something wrong with me because I can't stop checking my status. I can't stop refreshing the page. So I get it. Like I said, I did this whole thing too. I came from a tourist visa or like a religious visa to a green card. So it was like a whole step, for my family. So I get it, all right, but don't lose sleep over it. Just live your life and apply for what you qualify for, and just wait. Okay. What else do we have here for questions from Don Doty? That sounds like a familiar name. Doty. I think that's you, Doty. How you doing? So if you don't have a psychological assessment, it's a no. So no, it's not a no. It's maybe you need other proof, other stronger evidence. It's not a requirement, like I said, but it definitely helps support your own statements. Okay, nothing. We can't really say anything is a no or a yes because they have to just look at the whole picture, right? It's a whole full picture thing. We're looking at the history, the relationship, with a breakdown, like when the abuse started, all that stuff. It's not just one thing. Okay, so if you don't have one thing, don't be scared that I'm definitely getting denied now. But basically, the one I know for sure is the three that I mentioned. If you don't have bona fide marriage, most likely. If you miss a deadline, also most likely. But if you have enough proof of extreme cruelty and it's not a psychological report or a police report, it's something else. Maybe like a freaking machete in your head type thing. I don't know. Something really extreme. You're good. That's the point here. It's not really about one particular thing, but getting an assessment is not anything that's difficult to do. I know a lot of Africans be avoiding like therapy and stuff like that. But you don't need to avoid it. It's just talking to someone, just the way y'all talk to me. It's not, nobody is calling you crazy. You're not crazy. In fact, you are healed because you're going into therapy and talking to someone about the issues. Okay. I mean, everybody has problems on a daily basis. Instead of laying in your bed and thinking about it forever, just talk to a therapist, get it off your chest. And they'll just tell you one thing and you'll be like, wow, you're right. But they'll ask you, so why are you actually still staying in this situation if it's making you feel this way? And you're like, you're right. And then it can make you really think about things and change your mindset and then help you free yourself more. So I can help you with the green card piece of it. I can talk a little bit about the therapy piece of it because, before I went to law school, I did study marriage and family therapy. That was my main thing. My goal has always been to just help free people from oppression and abuse, right? So, but in this setting with VAWA, you need that assessment because I can't give you that assessment. I may be able to tell you, yeah, you're being abused, but I may not be able to give you that assessment because I'm just a lawyer for your green card. Got it? Okay, let me see. Do I have another question? Okay. So maybe that's it for the questions. Oh, let me see this one. Okay, I think that's it actually. Okay, not so bad. I think we got through those questions in pretty good time. So I'm going to, let me see here. I'm gonna give us some more music probably towards the end, but right now I'm just gonna check out some other topics I wanted to talk about because this month I got to find out is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So, there's a lot we can say about a VAWA self petition, just freeing yourself from abuse. So, um, yeah, but anyway, we can talk about more abuse, ways to figure out if you've been abused by your spouse. Also, just encouraging people to seek therapy, even if you're not filing a VAWA-based green card, because there's several reasons why people don't want to um, file a VAWA-based green card. So it's not. It might not be something. It might not be an option for you, but still, seek therapy. And we'll talk about the differences between. That's one of the topics that has been on my heart to share, because I hear that a lot with people really minimizing some things that I can clearly see is abusive. Okay, so I want to talk about the difference between a regular marital, fights, like just a quarrel, versus like abusive emotional manipulation. So we're going to talk about that at some point this month, just to give everyone an idea in case you were confused about whether you're being abused or not. So stay tuned. Again, my name is Ivy, the marriage green card lawyer, and I help clients find their freedom through their green card application. So if you qualify, great. If you don't, we're still going to help you find this freedom. We're going to free your mindset so that you can find it anywhere you are in the world. Okay? All right. I saw one more question come in. I'm going to answer that one, and then we can call it a day as far as the Q&A. But I'll still be here waiting for more questions from you. But I'm going to be basically doing my thing, which is listen to music and singing. Okay, that's my thing. So, and it's Friday. I think I deserve to do a little bit of my thing, right? Yeah. So what's the question? It says, why would a status go from 2 weeks to 2 months with USCIS approval? Can you be a little bit more clear on that one? I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Because if it's already been approved, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for like to get your green card in the mail or something? Or you say it's for I-130? So explain a little bit more. Your I-130 has been approved, and then what? Because with the consulate processing, once the I-130 gets approved, which I just had one in 5 months. I'm always talking about it because with all the delays and stuff. 5 months is pretty great for a petition. Okay, so I just got one approved the other day, but the next step we still have to wait for another couple of days before we can even start the other step two, right? So sometimes it could take a while. So, oh, okay, you mean like just timeline wise, or maybe it's just because of backlogs, I guess. Um, and you can always call to find out what's going on with your case, right? Like I said, if there's nothing missing and you're not getting an RFE or anything like that, it just is being processed. Yeah, so if the timeline increased, that's been happening lately, right? From like by 3 months. So this one, I guess this one yours is just a 2 month or 6 week increase in this I-130. But essentially, it's been happening just because backlogs, and that's what we're dealing with here. So you just keep waiting. And if your spouse did you file this concurrently with an I-485 or what? It's just an I-130. Where's your spouse in the USA, or are you the beneficiary? Yeah, because all that matters, like as far as the as far as like how you filed it also, because if it's a one step, if it's a one step process, right, and you didn't file like a K3, it's gonna just take that. It's gonna take a while, like probably 10 months or something. Okay, so your spouse is in Kenya. Okay, yeah. So it's gonna take some time to file a K3. Did you file a K3? Overdose me. Okay. So at this point in time, it's just free for all questions. If you have any more questions, otherwise we're done with the live. Just join me every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time so that we can talk about your frequently asked questions and also answer some of them live. All right. And also get some Afro beats in as well. If you're not, if you're new to Afro beats, just look up. So just look up Afro beats 2022, and you find out some really great songs that will change your life. Okay. So thank you again for joining. You guys hung in there with me for today, and we got through the topic. Every time we talk about VAWA, I feel like I just have this serious demeanor because I'm not playing when it comes to freeing yourself from abuse. But I'm glad I'm able to be here for you guys and share and answer your questions. I'll say my name one last time. I'm Ivy, the marriage green card lawyer. So follow me, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you next live. And also, don't forget to book a call. We have free inquiry sessions that you can book with us. So just call us right away, and somebody will be able to answer some of your questions. If you've reached out before and you haven't heard from us again, just reach out again because we just try to answer in the order that we receive the calls and the inquiries. So we're coming around to you, okay? So thank you very much again. Thank you for the roses on TikTok. I'm still yet to understand what those roses mean, but sure. I know it means something good. Anyways, thanks. Have a good one, guys. I'm gonna end Facebook. We'll go from there.